From Agerpoint, I'm James Kotecki, and this is the Point Cloud here on location at the AIM for Climate Summit in Washington, D.C., and on the location of the Nature Conservancy's presence here. I'm here with Julia Amato. You are the Associate Director of Communications for Global Food Systems at the Nature Conservancy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's just contextualize for people the Nature Conservancy writ large and what Global Food Systems means for the Nature Conservancy.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Nature Conservancy is a global conservation organization. We've been around for 70 plus years and we work in 70 plus different countries. And for a long time we've been focused, we started off as more of a land trust organization where we bought land, we protected it. And over the last 20 or so years, we've realized that we need to do more than just protect the land. We need to look up and out and look at what's happening on the edges of these lands. And part of that is food production, right? And so as we've heard at this conference over and over again, the global food system accounts for a third of greenhouse gas emissions, 90% of land use change, and 70% of water use all across the globe. So if as a conservation organization, it's pretty critical that we're working in food systems to meet our mission.
And speaking of food systems, you're having some very cool displays here in the background. Tell us about what's going on the screen. We'll probably put some footage of this up on the screen so people can see this as you're explaining it.
Yeah, for sure. So in 2021, at the end of 2021, our team of scientists and some partners of ours, we worked together to map for the first time ever the food growing regions of the world. And we took a look at not just the landscape, the terrain, the climate, but also the management attributes in terms of food management that's happening in those areas. So the biophysical characteristics, the terrain, all of that combined with the food production management, those together create what we call a foodscape.
Yeah.
And so after synthesizing the data, our team came up with about 83 different foodscape classes. And so the tool here gives people an opportunity to play around and filter and see what types of foodscape classes exist in different parts of the world. And I don't know, I think it's really cool. I've gotten a lot of great feedback in terms of finding commonality and, looking at different parts of the world and recognizing that similar foodscapes exist in lots of different regions.
And for those who may only be listening to the audio version of this when it comes out, this is basically an interactive digital map that it maybe starts off looking like a bunch of pixels, and then you can zoom in further and further, and those pixels are actually colored squares, and each color corresponds to a different foodscape, as you're describing.
That's absolutely right, yep.
And so is this based on what is actually growing on that land or what is optimally growing on that land?
So yeah, our scientists have said that it is actually looking at what is grown on that land. Mm-hmm. So the biophysical characteristics that are showing up on the map are really rooted in the soil type that exists there. And then the map will let you add different data filters. Mm-hmm. And so one of those filters is the crop production.
So a policymaker has access to this map and they're looking at it. What are some of the insights they can glean from this, another pun, and what are some of the things that they would actually be able to do?
Yeah, so the whole intent of us creating this map and the report is to influence change, right? So at the policy level, at the food system level, the corporations, the people who really are looking at their food supply, the food supply chain, and where they're sourcing things from, we want them to be able to look at this tool and they play around with the data filters to see where these regenerative practices have the most opportunity and where they can incentivize these practices to, mitigate risks for climate change and biodiversity loss.
You gave me, before this interview, you gave me a little bit of a sneak peek at where the map could be going. So what are some of the additional data layers and filters that you might be able to see in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, we've gotten a lot of great ideas in the last 24 hours since we've been here. Yeah. But where we're at right now, so the map currently allows for people to see a 5 kilometer by 5 kilometer data set, which gives a really great global overview. It's meant to serve as a global planning tool, like I said, to influence these sort of system-wide changes that we want to see. That said, we do see that, and we do know that the on-the-ground action happens at the local level, right? Yeah. So what we're hoping is that people can upload that local data, add to the map, and make it more usable in these local environments. Another idea that came up while we've been here is tapping into some of the food security data sets that exist. FAO has produced a great report regarding food security and has some data layers that could be integrated in this. So we see it as, we want to make it into a tool that's as usable and accessible to fuel the system-wide changes that we want to see. And so we're really open to any sort of partnerships that allow for that to happen.
And it's interesting, you're talking about this, this literally top-down view for policymakers at kind of this grand level of strategy, but then you're also talking about the ability to democratize where that data comes from and giving people who are actually on the ground the ability to upload their data, their ground truth, their images, whatever it might be, into that and create this kind of holistic system.
Yep.
So can people find this on the web right now?
They can't right now because we're launching next month. So yeah, it's still in development. We're still adding those risk layers and the opportunity layers, but at the end of June, if you head to nature.org/foodscapes, we'll have the map there for people to see.
Really excited to see that. And speaking of nature, I understand that you have a little virtual reality experience here as well. Right next to the food maps are some VR headsets.
Yeah, we didn't want to be all business, right? So we wanted to provide people a nature break from the conference and allow them to reconnect with the reason we're all here.
A nature break. Do you mind if I just grab one of these?
Go for it.
So I'm going to put this on in a second and give myself a little nature break. But before I do, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today on the Point Cloud. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you here at the Nature Conservancy's booth.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Julia Amato of the Nature Conservancy, thank you. And thank you for watching. We are here at the Aim for Climate Summit in Washington, D.C. From Agerpoint, this is the Point Cloud. I'm James Kotecki, and I'm going to take a nature break. Oops. Fantastic. I've heard there's like real psychological benefits to this.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you're immersed into the forest.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great.